Hello, welcome to Navigating the Shift. This is Annabelle, and Sarah is actually away today doing some other things, so I thought I'd catch you up on what's happening here in Australia. There was a few days ago on the ABC News, that's our Australian Broadcast Corporation, so that's like our main government-funded news. And there was a very strange little piece of footage that showed up here where the footage didn't match what the text was about. Have a look at this.
Queensland Parliament. The state government announced the proposed legislation today. It's in part due to the stabbing of a police dog during an arrest in Brisbane last year. Recent outages have shown.
So you might say it was a mistake, but of course all the world is watching at the moment, and it spread very quickly around the truther community as a type of disclosure, because most people don't have any exposure to that kind of footage normally. But here it was, just a regular article. They had actually mixed up their articles. I was looking back through the comments to find out where on earth that came from, and it was footage from a Satanist group that are up in the state of Queensland, and they are petitioning the government to allow them to teach their religion in schools. So they obviously thought it was okay to get the cameras in to film what their ceremonies are like, obviously the bits that are child-friendly, and not when the child is up there taking part in it. A quite crazy mistake. The cracks are starting to show in the rules and things that obviously don't make sense. I think they're making these more obvious now so that people can start to see that this doesn't work. There's one here, a fish and chip shop in Brighton East in Melbourne, which is the state of Victoria. They're the ones that have had the hardest lockdown since the beginning of this. They were listed as an exposure site. Somebody apparently went into their shop who had the illness and spread it to all the people in the shop, and so the poor old shop had been closed down. But the time stated by the government was actually a time when the shop wasn't even open. Also, this guy here, Mark Briggs, they apparently are saying was hospitalised. And then the wife pointed out that actually the illness was an adverse reaction to the supposed cure. So these things they try and hide away, but they're not working so well. But I notice that they're constantly going on at the moment about the hospitals being overrun, and yet when we hear from actual hospital workers very quietly, because they have already said that they will lose their job if they speak out, they're not overrun at all. They're actually letting people have time off. The main rise in numbers has been these adverse reactions, which are now well over 50,000 of them around Australia. And sometimes when I point out that these are adverse reactions, I find that people are still reacting the same way as what they see presenters do on the television. Oh, you mean they just had a headache or a bit of a sore arm? Well, no. They've had paralysis. They've had loss of use of their arms. They've had loss of use of an eye. Bell's palsy, where you lose all the muscle control on one side of your face, a bit like a stroke. So there are a lot of problems there. The TGA that we have as our government department for collecting information on these complaints are very careful in how they put their weekly reports, that it shows there's more than 400 deaths reported, but they're only admitting that maybe 7 of them have been related to these. So that's an awful lot of reports that they are saying were just coincidence. That doesn't really make sense to me. Now we've been gearing up. All the truck drivers got really, really angry. They started posting very vicious videos around. They're going to stand up for their freedom, and they're not going to be forced to have medications or all these tests that go on and on and on all the time. They've had enough of it, and they want to get moving, and they put forward that they were going to have a protest on 31st of August, which they had notified everybody well in advance that this is what they were going to do. So I'm sitting here going, okay, this is interesting, because you're notifying the police at the same time. And so what are they planning to do? So 31st of August came round, and we saw nothing on social media, certainly nothing on mainstream, which we didn't expect. A few little snippets like these ones have come out, which show that, yes, they were happening, but we just weren't seeing them. And at the same time, they encouraged us all to get out there on foot and go and stand in front of the councils and the government buildings silently. And if you can imagine going into work there as a government official and realising you have all this attention on you in silence. When I watch that, I find it's actually quite scary to imagine sitting inside that building, knowing that all those people have got their attention focused on you. And there were other ones as well. I have some footage here from Cairns, Brisbane, and Adelaide. In Sydney Central, it was very quiet because they kind of knew that there would be loads of police around. This one lady got her photo on the front of the Sydney Morning Herald, beautifully coiffed, you might say. So it really kind of shows that a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can have truck drivers and you can have basic people that are running around protesting and getting arrested, but when you start seeing people that are in the upper end of society as well, that's really great. So that in this picture, it basically gives permission to people in the upper classes, you might say, or the professional areas, to stand up as well. And she's standing here with her father's Anzac medals. She told the journalists that she was standing there to represent what her father had stood up for. He put his life on the line along with all the other Anzacs to stand for our freedom. And that is what we're here to talk about, really. That's what all of this protest is about. You can juggle about the arguments of other things that are going on in terms of the illness and the cures that seem to be causing so many problems. But when it gets down to it, this has been used as an excuse to take away freedoms, the same freedoms that the Anzacs fought for all those years ago. And so now it's our turn to stand up and stand for those freedoms which they're trying to take away, and they are never planning on giving back to you. So you really have to think about that quite strongly. So there were a couple of things that started happening. There were even photographs of people, like there's 5 people out the side of this local council, and everyone went, yay! You know, they were really cheering everybody on, whether it's a big crowd or whether it's a little crowd. Every single one made a difference, and it changed the energy. It really did. And then that was 31st of August, and I'm going, okay, what's happening with the trucks? What, was there no trucks at all? But it took a wee while before some of the footage started coming out, as well as this video, this viral video about the Premier of New South Wales. I love the music in the background, which is, I think, Star Wars.
I'm a bit tired of hearing people saying, I don't know how to do my job properly. And I think that's really mean. I remember being criticised. Just remind everybody how criticised I was. That's not acceptable. I hope everybody likes staying at home because we are going to go into lockdown forever. Nobody from New South Wales is going anywhere. We will have 2 million police officers standing at the corner of every street to monitor every single citizen. We're really watching very closely. I hope this really will be devastating. We don't like to be heavy-handed, but what we need to say today now is that if you leave home, we will give you a death sentence.
Beautifully it is together. It would have taken a fair amount of time, but I think it's just turning people's heads that things are going on, and those behind the scenes that are running this whole plan are starting to get nervous. So I noticed today, which is the 2nd of September, if you're over in America, it's only the 1st of September for you at the moment, but they've opened up here in New South Wales, and now they're allowing trade people to get working. So they were outside my street today from 7 o'clock in the morning, and the council workers are out starting to clean the streets and things. Immediate change, all right? Things are starting to change really quickly. Not only that, but then I had a look at this here. I noticed on the 31st of August, they didn't really show a lot. They were very quickly came up as a whole bundle of fires on the main route between New South Wales and Queensland. The border is where the trucks said that they were going to block which would basically close much of the country down, because these are the main arterial routes for goods to move between states. It's going to make a massive difference. Postage and everything is going to get stopped. So first of all, it showed up as fire, which we thought was rather funny. Then it disappeared. And I was looking on there on the 31st of August, there was nothing there. But now look, now they're not even going to hide it now, because it covers right across the border. On every little street that you can get from one side of the border to the other, all of it is now blocked. They have succeeded. Nothing on mainstream media, nothing at all. Nothing on social media, it's all been deleted and cut off. I was watching a live stream of the same New South Wales Premier going on with her usual daily report, and looking at the comments that flow as she's speaking, people were going, and there was maybe 95% of the comments were against her. That's how big a deal this is. There are a huge amount of people out there that are against the government and really want change. They want to be opened back up again, and they're not going to put up with this any longer. And I was waiting to see what would happen, because it's one of the main, one of our original main newspapers. So I figured, well, they've got the resources to get staff in there to edit and moderate these comments. It took them a long time to catch up because people were throwing in comments over and over and over, and so I joined in a bit too, doing a bit of trolling. But it took a wee while before they started deleting the comments and saying, nope, you can't say that, nope, can't say that, do you disagree? And you might say disagree, and it just puts the comment back again. It won't post it. It's just sitting there as an edit box. So they had to work really, really hard. Whereas some of the smaller media outlets that don't have as many staff, they were really struggling to moderate all the comments. So they might go back and delete them all again. But it really shows that when you see some of these articles that have got, all the top comments are all positive towards the mainstream media agenda, they're not representing what the public really think. So the turning point is here. I could just feel it. As soon as those tradies were outside this morning, I knew we have turned this over. We have got people waking up fast now. It's really moving. And if supplies are going to be cut off along the borderline, then I really highly recommend that you head down to your supermarket. Don't make a scene, right? Just make sure you've got enough food for, say, about 2 weeks' supplies, generally speaking, whether you need matches or whether you need toilet paper. Just make sure you've got everything that you're going to need and not go to the shops for 2 weeks, because those supplies will start to thin out, even now that they've closed off today. I don't know how long they plan to sit there. It's a pretty amazing thing. So let's keep an eye on this. Meanwhile, over in some of the other parts of the world, there have been a massive amount of flight craft, which they're guessing are actually drones, all over America and the UK, massive amounts. So that's kind of interesting. A lot more flooding is still happening, and the Three Gorges Dam in China currently has an orange flood warning. That's close to a red alert. So it's possible that will be going soon too. I've been reading one of the groups on Telegram, which have their own theories of how things work. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not. But their impression was that once the Three Gorges Dam goes, which should be fairly close, it may expose, first of all, it will clean out Wuhan. Now that apparently has been evacuated mostly anyway. This cleansing of water, we noticed before. Remember I did that earlier episode, a few episodes back, of the massive amount of flooding where there weren't many deaths, right? There weren't many lives lost. So it's obviously manipulated, and it's done by the good guys to clear out all these underground spaces that have been used for human trafficking or for whatever nefarious uses that they have. I guess by filling them with water, I mean, if you wanted to use them again, you could empty them with water, that's fine. But I think the idea is that once you fill them with water, if the planet is rising its frequency, then water is the best conductor of that sort of thing, and it will rise the energy and hopefully heal that area. If you think about it in spiritual terms, if there have been great torments and suffering within those spaces, whether they're just under a dam or whether they're 10 kilometres down in the deep underground bases, that to fill them with water that rises in frequency will be a way to heal the energy in those spaces. Another one that's been very useful is this guy here, Joe Rogan, who is a very famous podcaster, and he tested positive for COVID and then he got his ivermectin and was feeling great after 3 days. So he told his millions of subscribers that that was the case, and of course then they report it on the news as being a horse dewormer. So they're trying to put you off, but really it's antiparasitic. It's like the ones that have been used, as we talked about before, in Ecuador and Bolivia as the chlorine dioxide, which was mentioned by a certain person a while ago as being bleach, which the press made a big fuss about and laughed at, and they didn't really stop to investigate it properly, or sometimes they deliberately put out misinformation about it being a bleach, right, and not actually taking a look at how it is used. They don't want to, and they're not allowed to, tell you how effective it is in clearing up problems within the body. So I think this news is really starting to come out. It'd be interesting to watch to see, will the media slowly turn their story? It's such an enormous cruise ship heading in one direction, right? Cruise ship or a battleship, whatever you want to call it. They've set their agenda all this time for the last 20 months or so to go in one direction, that they cannot suddenly go, oh, okay, all right, yeah, all right, we're actually meant to be going in this direction over here, this is the truth. They have to bend it slowly, right? Otherwise the backlash is going to be enormous. So just watch and see how they just slowly introduce ideas along the way to bring out the truth so that they don't look so bad, right? They're quite happy to make government officials look bad, but they don't want to look bad themselves. So be interesting to see how they go with that. So enjoy the rest of your week. Things are moving in the right direction. Things are going to be great. Get your shopping done. Bye for now.